Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another one of our sessions in the Jamaica Land We Love series. Today we are speaking directly about resilience, recovery, and reality. What is your reality? What is your recovery plan? And how resilient are you? Are you going through the motion? We have top experts, and I use top experts, and may not, seems, pliable to you to use top and expert in the same sentence, but we have persons who are quite experienced in their field to speak on these topics, the three topics: resilience, recovery, and reality. We have Ms. Primrose Granville, who is an award-winning BBC journalist who resides in Bristol. And if you know anything about Bristol, they are game changers. They're cultural game changers. They do not do protests. They don't do that. They do uprising. And in this harsh reality, is it that we need to have an uprising against being lax and relaxed in our economic status? For one, I am challenged myself, but I have to be resilient. I have to rise above my own challenges. I definitely have to. And I'm being challenged doesn't mean that you're gonna roll up in a little ball in a fetal position and say, Lord, that's it, the end now. This climate requires you to be resilient and have a recovery plan. Is it that that recovery plan was actually your life goal that you could actually pivot on to say, okay, I'm going to implement this now to see me through? We have from a very astute and outstanding financial institution, one that I'm a proud ambassador of, Victoria Mutual. We have the likes of the senior mortgage and loans officer, Miss Shelley and Scott, with us today. And she's joining the conversation. She's here to listen, and also, if you want, arrange for a one-on-one for you to have special discussions as how you can have your special recovery plan actually actualized. We have Mr. Rory O'Harris, and he's the business development officer from Victoria Mutual. His office is actually in Birmingham. So if you're wondering, if there's any representation in the north side of the diaspora, yes, Mr. Rory O'Harris. And you may be thinking of, starting that little business that can support you up until, and I'll use this word, pension, or even if you're close to your pension. And I'll use these words because it's a plan. We have from the other side of the pond, Mr. Edward Boucher. But if you're from Jamaica, you'll say Mr. Boucher, right? But he resides in France. He's very, very eloquent in speaking French. And we would really like to hear from Mr. Boucher, his experience on how resilient are Jamaicans, friends of Jamaica in France. We will be joined by Mr. Jason Baker, who is the sales and marketing manager at Moorland Development. And he'll be speaking on reality in reality. Is that 3-bedroom a little bit too much for you now? You want to consolidate, maybe 2 bedrooms? Is the land that you have got this property on too big for just you alone? Are you thinking of having joint acquisition? You want to build your property with family members or friends? You want to build your own community? That's what we're talking about today. We're moving from the point of being alone, making decisions on your own, to actually having a support unit that's for you. Special thanks to the Lord Alan Okello, who's definitely giving support as it relates to some of your questions. We'll be noting this, and it will definitely be on the website by Property Jamaica. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, as I go through what we're about today, I want to introduce Ms. Primrose Granville, who is no stranger to this forum as an award-winning journalist. Ms. Primrose Granville.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a note to let you know that I'd rather be on the other side of the camera, but today I'm coming out of hiding. I'm usually behind the mic. So COVID-19, probably the world's most, barring the Spanish flu, which most of us did not experience, this is probably the most testing time in our world. Not just our village, our city, our country, it's across the globe. There isn't one single region in the world or across the globe that has not been impacted. And we know that for most things, it's usually about money. And this COVID-19 thing, it very much is about money. The whole reinfection rates that are happening now across the globe again is because economies were falling apart. People went back to work, and of course, I call her Rona because she's definitely female. Rona was hanging around just looking for more company to keep, and she found it. Now, I'm going to give you two quotes. None of them are mine originally. One is from my granny, and one is from a young lady from Jamaican inspired, who shared this with us a few weeks back. If you were in the race relations talk, you would have heard it. So she said, we only get paid 12 times a year if you're in a job. So JOB equals 12 times a year. And my grandmother the first thing she ever gave me in her life is a saving tin. She made it out of a Milo tin. Now I don't drink Milo, I'm a Horlicks girl, but she made it out of a Milo tin because you can't save in Horlicks bottle. She made it herself and gave it to me, and she said, I am to make this my best friend. When I was old enough, she said to me, the best time for you to save money is when you're broke. Because if you can save when you're broke, then you can save any other time in your life. And I have kept that with me for life. Whenever I find myself under stringent measures, like I do now during COVID-19, I'm a freelance journalist. You don't work, you don't get paid for anything. I could prepare as many pieces of stories that I want to prepare. If I don't turn up on broadcast night, they will run my stories and they'll say, lovely Primrose, not paid me though. So I have to turn up to cash up. So I have felt COVID-19 big time. And it has been very difficult for me to I have my savings set up automatically, and to look at it going out and say, well, you know, so we gotta go shopping with that little money. And I think of all the little things that I could be doing, but I don't look at it. Is someone asking a question? I'll leave that, I'll carry on. So it is very hard to save when times are tough, but it is actually the best time because it prepares you for saving when you have the money, because it becomes easy. It's commonplace. And you know, I don't even know how to describe COVID-19. COVID-19 is one of those things where, you know, if you're of Jamaican heritage or you're Jamaican, you know, we can find a name and a song for anything. I have found that during this period, yeah, the songs are there, but they were not as quick as, say, Hurricane Gilbert that came out in a couple days. If we have any earthquake or anything, we come out with a song, we come out with a dance. COVID-19 has, as we say in Jamaica, it lick us for six, literally. So it's a very, very difficult time for us. And what I have been doing for my own self is every time I find myself with an extra £5, £10, £20, the other day I came into a little windfall and I thought, I can use it to do this and that. And I thought, nope, you're going to use it to open this account from that account and you're going to save it because you didn't know you were going to get it. So just write it off. And I think for us to think about life after COVID-19, that too is also difficult. No one is giving us an end date. Nobody knows what's going to happen in terms of COVID. You know, I want to take a trip to Jamaica from March 20th, and I'll know I can book a flight. And it's like that. You can't plan for anything. I'm scared to even plan a shopping trip to the supermarket because I don't know. I don't know. So trying times, uncertain times. But the one thing I will tell you that I think we should be doing at this time is making it saving times, because we don't know what's going to happen at the end of it. And we Jamaicans like to have our rainy day money. I think at the end of COVID-19, it's going to be a stormy couple of days. And we really need to actually have our money set aside as to what we can do. The other thing, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about generational wealth. Now, I saw something on Facebook a long time ago that says we should stop selling grandma's house and stop selling mommy's house. And it sat with me because it's so true. You know, we sell everything, yeah? And sometimes when you look at it, 20 years down the line, you think, well, I sold that house. What do I have to show for it? And you have to think about those things. We have to start thinking about generational wealth. You know, that would be the recovery. The resistance is the saving. The resilience is actually surviving this period. And I think we really have to start building that wealth for ourselves. I hear a lot of people from our community say, no, let's not pick them what list. We're not teaching them how to create generational wealth by having that mindset. We kind of have to change that mindset. I am not telling you to go and make them be worthless or not work for what they have, but possibly we need to start building. And this is where the whole income thing, you know, stop it being paid 12 times a year, you know, several income streams. Build something. Let your children watch you build something and let them emulate you. Let them think, hang on a second, my father, he's not rich, but he have a patty shop, and the patty shop always full. That is telling your children that, hang on a second, without a great deal of wealth, I can build something, and teach our children, the generations to come, to build on what it is that we have built here. Because as time goes by, we would hope that, you know, things get better in terms of the social circumstances, and the more, let's not look at what's happening now in America, please. The more we build is the more our generations that come after us will be able to build on that. So for me, those are three things I would really like to start with and for us to possibly discuss around. Mr. Corey, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Primrose, and well said. That actually allows us to segue into mentality. Is there just this anti holding on to money thing going on when there's a pandemic, or when there's some kind of storm out there, that this is what you have been saving for, or my word, I've found myself in a position where I don't have it because I should have saved, woulda, shoulda, didn't situation. Well said, Primrose. Before I actually kind of bring anybody else in, what's the climate like, the economic climate in Bristol? What is it like? Do you find that those who are of Caribbean heritage are doing much better than friends of Jamaica, or is that juggling that?
At the moment, it's very difficult to tell who's doing well, and this is hard to gauge if anyone is doing better than anyone else. But what I will tell you about Bristol, and you know, a tiny bit of history about Bristol, if you don't know anything about Bristol. Bristol is a little quiet riot city, and the pun is intended on quiet riot. Bristol changes things. We take down slavers, we make worldwide news headlines, we start uprisings in the UK. For anyone who's a Londoner and think all the uprisings in the 80s started in London, no, they started right here in St. Paul's on a street called Grosvenor Road outside a cafe called the Black and White Cafe in 1980. and it fed across the UK, Liverpool, Manchester, Brixton, North London, all over the place, as you saw what happened on the 7th of June with the toppling of the Colston statue, Bristol just does things that way. And just Wednesday, because of our uprising spirit down here in this great big city that I really like, and it reminds me of Kingston and St. Andrew, by the way, and I'm going to tell you why later on. But we changed the name and the facade of a building that was named after the philanthropist, they call him, Edward Colston, because he gave the land and the building and the money for Colston Hall. But we've made them change that name. It's now called Bristol Beacon. And, you know, when I walk the streets of Bristol, I see Upper St. Andrew, Halfway Tree, Crossroad, and downtown. I actually identify with those places when I go from one place to the next. And if you know anything about Jamaica, and I can only speak of Kingston and St. Andrew because that's where I grew up. And the more you travel up or the more you travel down, you see the divide. It is in your face. And it's like that in a lot of places in Jamaica. So most of the cities in the UK are no different, but in Bristol, it is a lot more pronounced because it's geographically relative to Jamaica. So it's up, down, 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 down. You're stopping halfway, and some people don't go any further south, and some people can't go north. And that creates wealth issues and prosperity issues and survival issues and a lot of social issues. And when you ask me how people are doing in Bristol, Corey, I know the people in the middle bit, the Halfway Tree bit. I know how they're doing, and they're not doing well. I chair a community center, and our community center started a food hub with kind sponsorship from Victoria Mutual. We also started a care package hub, and you'd be amazed what you can do with a couple £100 per month for people who have nothing. And when our hub started, Black people don't like to line up and beg nothing. I know that for sure. We like to line up for tickets and to go places, but we don't like to line up and beg and collect food. I think I'm very correct when I say that. So we started a food hub, and we decided we're not having anybody come line up for no food. We're going to deliver to people in unmarked boxes, in unmarked cars, so that people can feel the dignity of what we're giving them. If they're not home, we're not leaving a box at them doorstep, we're taking it back, and we're gonna call them. And each box is labeled, and the amazing feedback from an elderly lady saying, my box have on my name, I feel like it's mine, I feel like you packed it for me. That tells you how people feel about it. But what's come out of the food hub, the first week we handed out 20 food packages, 20. And we were like, the people, we can't find nobody to put on this list. We're now handing out 200. And we don't have, the food hub ends next Wednesday. We know what's going to happen when it ends. People are going to come to our door and say, what happened to my package? We have no further funding for that food hub. And I'm telling you, the people that I walk past and talk to on the street on a daily basis, that I saw their names on that list, I had to think to myself, I had to scratch my head and say, hold on a second. But these people are okay. But they're not. They're not. And we don't know it because they don't tell us. Because we Jamaicans, you know, if you're not salt in your house, you eat the food fresh. You know, walk and tell the neighbor because they're going to spread your business. We don't buy into the problem halved. Shared is a problem halved. For us, it's a problem shared, is a problem spread. So within our own communities, you never know. Your neighbor might be somebody who is very much in need. And you don't know because they don't say. And I have watched that need grow from the food hub to us. We got some funding to deliver care to people who are living with dementia. And I'm currently writing an article about how a dignified food hub changed the perspective of getting free food. Because it's no longer free food, it's necessary help. They're not even aligning the word free food with the service anymore. It's help, you know. And we've also created this hub where they're getting a food parcel with a tin of red peas. You know, sometimes we go buy some yellow yam and cut it up and put one little bag of yellow yam. We put two finger banana in the box. For any African Caribbean household getting that, there's a different acceptance for that box. But the thing that really hit me is how many of my fellow African Caribbean people, a lot of them Jamaicans, are in need. They are very much in need, especially our elders. And I sat down and I spoke to an elder the other day, and he had a nice job when he was younger. And he said, "We wish we did buy 2 houses when we did have the money." He's now 82.
Wow. 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 And that's why we're having this forum. And thank you for that cultural balance right there. And I think we're going to hop over to France just a little bit and find out from Mr. Edward Boucher if there are similar circumstances on that side of the pond, considering that you have been there for a long time, Edward. What are your experiences there? Is it the same thing that you'll find with the diasporians there, or friends of the diaspora? Is it that they are reluctant in being proactive to their economic wealth, their disposition to climbing up the social ladder, or they're already there, them reach already? What is it? What is it? What's the resilience plan on that side? And then after that, I'll bring in a few questions that I think will be a little bit provocative as it relates to home ownership in Jamaica. You know, is that the destination now? Edward.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to really share my personal experience, because I mean, that's the best thing that I can share. Because I came to France in 2002. I came as a language assistant, and I'm a country boy, you know, so I'm coming to foreign. So, you know, I'm thinking I'm coming and I'm gonna earn a lot of money, and I'm gonna save, get married, buy a house, car, land, all those big things that you're supposed to do in foreign. But I didn't really have a plan. And when I got to France, and the reality hit me that the program that I came on, which was a teaching assistant program, we were not well paid. We were paid pittance, let's put it that way. And we were not allowed to work elsewhere, even though we were only doing 12 hours per month. So it's almost like you got a false start. I got a false start in France, in the sense that you come in now with all these great expectations, and the reality is you have a student loan to pay. You're in foreign, so your family expecting a little bit of a change now and again, and you can hardly pay for your bills, or you know. So I really struggled in my early years. And even beyond being an assistant, because your main objective is to come to learn French and then to probably go back to Jamaica to teach. Me, I got an opportunity to stay teaching. But even though I was teaching, I was probably getting poorer. So that between, I didn't go back to Jamaica. I never having the money. And so much so that my father died, and to go to the funeral. For some reason, God worked it out that I had some money, some back money to get from the university. So I got that to go to the funeral. But believe me, if my father had died 2 months earlier, I wouldn't have been able to go to the funeral, because I would not have had the money. So it was struggling through, and probably just waiting for a day when, you know, you're gonna get a break or something. And, you know, I invited assistants on this forum, because I'm telling them that I have to come with a plan, a serious plan, and you have to come with a reality check as well. You're not gonna make a lot of money, but you're gonna have to find a way to put aside something for rainy day. As COVID is showing us, it's rainy day. We have to come with a plan so that we can put aside something. And looking back, there are many things I did wrong, because now I look and I see I could have, you know, put up announcements in the street to give English lessons. I could have done maybe online lessons. I mean, things you know now you didn't know before. So much, and now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I'm here for years. And me not have nothing in Jamaica. I don't have a property. I don't have, apart from family land. You understand? I don't really have something that I can say this represents all my years abroad. So now I had an idea recently, and it was to, promote Brand Jamaica in France, and Victoria Mutual actually came on board to support me. I didn't have anything on the table, because normally when you're going to big companies like Victoria Mutual and Moorland Development, you have to have, your 10,000 followers and your pictures of events that you have done. But I didn't have any of that. The only thing I had was passion, and I met the Jamaicans Inspired, and I'm like, listen, I have this idea to bring Jamaican culture to France, to bring Jamaican companies, and VM, they were like, okay, we'll back you. We'll back you. And the partnership with VM now is creating opportunities for other assistants who are coming. And so now we're looking at accompanying other Jamaican brands to come to France. We're going to need people who can translate labels for Jamaican companies who are coming to invest in France. We're going to need people to interpret so that when they come, they have chaperones. We're going to need people to give French lessons to Jamaican companies and people who want to come here either to visit or to invest. So that's one of the reasons I really told them, come online, talk to VMBS, try and find a way to put aside something. If you're earning $20, you need to save at least $1 or $2, because it doesn't look like a lot, but when you save it in euros, €2, now the dollar is what, 170 euros to one. So it might not be a lot here, might be the price for a Coca-Cola, but you save that, you send it back to Jamaica in a VMBS account, and I'm stressing VMBS because I can't really call nobody name, but I went back to Jamaica last year summer, and my account wasn't there. They're like, oh, we closed the account with the money. Oh, it was inactive, so we closed it. No way of getting back my money or my account. And something that's crucial with VMBS is I don't think you guys close accounts. So it's something as simple as that. I didn't know, nobody told me, right? And it can make a difference. So I'm just saying that, there are a lot of opportunities that are going to come up, but come with a plan to earn as well. Create your own wealth, I'm telling people. It's not about just going to work for others. Create your own wealth. What can you do? Maybe create a flyer, maybe, I don't know, open a party shop, I don't know, something that could support you in addition to what you're doing now. You're on mute, Corey. You're on mute.
Right. So as it relates to culture, do you find a cultural barrier in France? If you want to open, you just mentioned a party shop. Is there a cultural questionnaire that you have to probably put out to the public before you get the support? They want to know what the product is. Who are you? Why are you doing this in France? Or is it that Brand Jamaica is so prominent in France? Once you represent and you fly the flag, you are in. Is that something that you find happening in France?
It's a bit of both, in the sense that we could look and say that there's no Jamaican entity apart from JamFed and the other associations, non-profit, but there's no entity, no restaurant, no Jamaican business, let's put it that way. And it's not for want of Jamaicans, because we have a number of Jamaicans who are in the diaspora who have been here for 20, 30 years. So it is true that traditionally France has not been a place that encourages entrepreneurship. And so maybe because of that, people, didn't take risk to do it. It's a country where you're pretty much comfortable with the social benefits, but you're not going to take risk because, for example, if you have a restaurant, you're going to be inspected a lot. You need to, if you're making products, you have to label all the ingredients carefully, correctly, the amount of sugar, salt, etc. So I guess that cultural barrier as well, and then maybe because traditionally people don't look to the diaspora here for things that, you know, maybe that has affected the way we have shunned over the years. But, you know, that's changing now.
All right, Edward. Thank you for that insight, and we will revisit some elements from that, because it's really important to find out if individuals are actually interested in coming back to Jamaica or going back to Jamaica, depending on your origin, whether it be nostalgia or heritage. Now, is it a prime opportunity for persons to pivot on their own pride? Should we pivot on our pride? Is it a good time to rethink the family land and squash all of the squabbles that have been happening in the background, seek legal advice, approach Moorland development, have a conversation with VM, or look in your savings, the potential, and make a move? Is it that you're comfortable in a foreign land? Or is this foreign land your home? We can take this couple of ways. Whether Primrose want to look at this as an original Jamaican, daughter of the soil, you grow up with your little piggy bank. Right? I did too. My story is one I can tell in probably 3 minutes. When I got to the United Kingdom, I found myself with £1 in my pocket. And my story is that for that £1, it allowed me to make bold moves without compromising on my morals. Pride was not an issue because you're working towards a goal. I worked in warehouse. I work as security guard. I have done things like that, along with being one of the best tutors in IT. So I remember with this £1 that I found myself with, I bought a sliced bread, a small tin of corned beef, and a taste bad cherry aid drink. All right? And I bounced that for a week, one whole week, until I got £70 working in a warehouse as a picker. You understand me? And I got £70 for my pay, and I did not look back after that. I've made mistakes because the climate, I believe, was right, was quite right for youthful exuberance. And so I made mistakes, and I corrected those mistakes. I've had to learn from other people. I've seen the lessons. Is it that these youngsters who are coming into France now and those who are looking towards the United Kingdom as their place of residence, is it that you're going to become complacent? There's a pandemic, yet the dynamics have changed. But what is the message? What's the lesson to be learned here? What are the financial institutions saying? What is the harsh reality? And I'm gonna bring Shelley and Scott in on this bit of the conversation right now. What is the harsh reality? The person's looking forward to a mortgage. They're looking for a loan. They've got this grand plan from day one. They believe that they will be great entrepreneurs. And bang, here comes COVID. They may have been ticking the boxes. They may probably have been working on their credit score for a long time. But what is the harsh reality? What is it? What's the conversation that needs to be had now? What is it that needs to be said to these individuals for them to have an informed path? Shelley, I'm inviting you in now just to speak on the realities of persons approaching financial institutions for mortgages and loans within this climate? I know you're on mute. All right, you're off mute now.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, good evening, my time. What COVID has done for us, for the world globally, it's changed the game. It's changed the game, and it's affected a lot of persons. And what I'm seeing more with persons, yes, they may have been building up the credit score, they may be building up the savings, but things have changed, and what we're looking at now is a clear affordability. Where commitments in the UK have to come first. That's where you live. That's what we're looking at first. You can afford here, but can you afford Jamaica?
Yeah.
And we take into consideration a lot of different things, where you find persons having a rental home in the UK plus a residential. So you have a rental income. You used to be able to use that as part of the calculation. But that has changed because COVID have affected a lot of rental incomes. So now you have to know, we are looking at now, your income should be able to sustain your living here and sustain the rental income. So can you now afford a property in Jamaica?
Right.
So it's changed the way we calculate, it's changed the way we assess. And the harsh reality is a lot of persons won't be able to afford now. It's not saying that they should give up the quest for home ownership in Jamaica. It's saying we're cautious. We'll still guide you. We'll still have that conversation. It may not happen now, but we'll put you on the right track.
Right. All right. So on the road to recovery, because this is a particular area of the conversation that I really wanted VM to sit in, the recovery mode. And you know, around home acquisition, property acquisition, and you know, from where you sit as the senior mortgage and loans officer, you know, we hear you loud and clear that things will have to change a little bit, the processes, and we want the diaspora to understand that these changes, you know, they are also there to protect you. They're there to protect the individuals. Recovering may have a timeline, so person starting now and be prudent may be able to recover a lot quicker than the individual who procrastinate. So what are some of the cultural barriers that you will find? And I'm going to bring back Primrose in this. The cultural barriers that you will find in the UK, Primrose, that will cause somebody to procrastinate. As I say, Sancha Alicia, former mayor, and I want to bring her in a little bit later on that same point of procrastination. Primrose, and then we'll hear from Mr. Jason Baker as the harsh reality hit and what real estate is actually saying in Jamaica. Thank you very much for that, Shelley, and we will touch on the other points moving forward. Very well said. Primrose.
Culturally, I have to say something which might offend some people, but when I came here, growing up in Jamaica, I remember going home with a B+ for our English test, and my family said to me, but you could have get one A. And I remember thinking, I worked so hard for this B+. You all don't know how Miss Nicholas mark, but it's the closest thing to an A, but it wasn't enough. And as a youngster, I was always pushed to get more, do better, put more in. If you didn't get the A this time, it's not because Miss Nicholas marked hard. Something on that assignment made her not give you not give you the A that you thought you deserve. So you need to work a little bit harder. coming here to the UK as a teacher and teaching and watching the expectation levels of teachers, that what they take from their students, I had to learn to adjust my cultural expectation of children. In Jamaica, I was teaching 3- and 4-year-olds who are writing their names and reciting the alphabet and can do a simple sum, and and then I come here to my 5-year-old reception, 4- and 5-year-old reception children who are just learning their large motor skills, not finer, but large. And the order of the day is 1 hour of water play, sand play, dress up box, outside play. Then they get a break. They get their milk and biscuits on the carpet. They come up, we do some numeracies. They get too tired, we change it, and we do a lot of singing. And I thought to myself, wow, it's a massive, massive difference. So for me, it was a big culture shock. And then I think the biggest culture shock for me was the day I heard the words A to C as passes. Because I'm thinking, C a pass? Okay. So I had to learn that. And one of the things you do when you go into a new country is you don't automatically criticize their standards. You can't judge them by your own. You have to find out why their standards are the way they are. So here we are coming from Jamaica. I was old enough to do both GCE. Anybody remember GCE? So I did GCE and CXE. So I think my life was probably hell. Yeah, because I had to do both of them. And it's 2 different levels, 2 different exams that you answer differently. So for me, that was very, very hard. And I think here in the UK, and I'm going to use a personal example from my own life. So as an early years teacher, I had an accident in 2003, and in 2005, I was told, you're not fit enough for this job anymore. I taught early years special needs children. If you have a bad back, you cannot work with them. And I remember sitting in my doctor's office, and she said to me, oh, you can go get a hobby. You can have this benefit and that benefit and get a hobby. And I said to her, yeah, but what do I do in the daytime? And she said, that's when you get your hobby, Primrose. You get your hobby in the daytime. You go out and you could do, what do you like sewing? And I'm like, what hobbies for after 5? I did a hobby in Jamaica all my life, after 5, after school finish, after work finish. And she said, it's different now. You can't work. And I said to her, well, why can't I work? My brain still works. Oh, but I lived in constant pain for years. And they basically wrote off this 35-year-old woman with the constant pain as to go and get a hobby. I didn't get a hobby. I went out and did some volunteer work. Somebody said to me, you love chat, want to radio station, walk down the road. They're not going to pay you, but you never know where it will take you. And I went and I did that volunteer work because it was very important to me that my one son did not see me sitting down at home all day long having a hobby. It didn't work for me. And that's the first time I actually had a clash with the cultural system, because I had to save. I needed to save. I can't save what I benefit in a work. My son had to see me doing things, and I had to feel good about myself. But it almost crushed me, because I was fighting against a system that I was on the, or as the doctor described it, and let me quote her words to you. She said, you're on the end of the parameter where no one cares, Primrose. They actually don't care. No one cared to give me a job. Sainsbury's turned me down with my teaching degree to one checkout girl job. Them say, oh, but you're not fit for the job. We would want to hire you as a manager, but you can't walk up and down. And, it was very, very, it was like, what do you mean you can't give me the work, because we can't push around in one trolley. You can do anything to give me the job. But the fact of the matter is, they have a set of rules and regulations that are written down that you just don't go against. And that's what I faced, and I was determined to get out of it. That's what you deal with here in the UK. Somebody who is not determined, hell-bent on that savings account being fed every month, hell-bent on actually having a job, you just sit back and you go, sure, I give up. That's what we face here. Now, when you talk about some people considering home and you talk about me, I'll give you a share a little anecdote that I had with my sister. I was in Heathrow Airport one Wednesday heading home to Jamaica. My sister called me and she wanted to talk to me. And she said to me, call me when you reach home. And I said, yeah, man. So I called her the next day. And she said, you just call me? Me said, me just reach home. And she said, I said, long it take you to reach your yard? I said, yes. But she was thinking my yard was in England. And I'm thinking, my yard is in Jamaica. So for me, Jamaica is home. I live here. And I tell that to people all the time. I live here. So for me, it is very important that I have my little piece, a yard, Jamaica. Now I'm one of the lucky Jamaicans. Me have enough yard can go live, but I want my own. I want my own. And anybody who knows me knows that I got a little love going on for my need. Right, Corey?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Absolutely.
My little chateau I build down on my need. You know, me don't want a mansion. I just want running water, kitchen, because I love cook. And, you know, my own bathroom plus bathroom for other people. Come in and like share bathroom and kind of thing there. And a little yard. I want 2 pigs. I want 2 goats. Some chicken. That's what I want to go home to. But the reality now, during COVID, you know, I've just gone through the process of setting up a new account with VNBS. And they've been most patient, right, Shelly? Because I'm not the easiest customer. I don't know how to do nothing. So it's a case of, I told you I got the little windfall the other day and I set up a new account. I could have spent, there's so many things. All of my blinds, them broke on my front window. You know, me I say I twist them like I'm some kind of carpenter to get them open and closed. Not replacing them. I need to set up the account first, simply because it is important now, and I go back to my granny, the best time to save is when you have trouble. Because if I don't save now, I'm going to buy new blinds. Everybody from the street have new blinds, and I want them to, but no, it's saving account come first. And I say all of this to say, socially and culturally, Jamaicans raised in Jamaica and Jamaican heritage children who are raised in a Jamaican home in England, you know, some of you are born here and you think you're British until you go through your front door. Then you know you're not British, you're Jamaican. They're different. And what we have to remember is the Windrush generation came here and they were so busy fighting to make life better for their children that some of the things that they could have done, they couldn't do. Right. And we can't blame them for that. They were busy fighting. So they probably never see the subject grades going down. They probably never see that the teacher telling their son, oh, you can't be a doctor, but you can be a porter. And at the end of the day, they're thinking, well, we did fight so hard to actually find somewhere to live. If he's a porter in a hospital and have a job and then paying him, no big deal. Because when your back is against the wall, you go for the least common denominator and then you take time climb up. So those things happen. But I think home ownership, I was very frightened to come to the UK. The first guy who tried to date me in the UK had a Chris car crisp like biscuit. Yeah, and one day he invited me to his house for dinner. And trust me, I didn't see when cook yet because I was out. It was like, but boss, oh, your car looks, yes, you live, boss? Oh, yeah, it's my flat. No, boss. I'm like, boss, you spent, and he took that car to the car wash twice a week. He could have bought a flat. This was 1996. He could have, well, 94. He could have bought a flat. But the car crisp like biscuit, and he still drive a crisp car, and he's still living.
You know, you see, the thing is, we do have so much information floating around, especially VM do have what they call financial writers with the Chief Representative Officer, Mr. Leighton Smith. You know, it provides a lot of information on how persons can overcome some of these barriers that we mentioned. You know, simply by just being, you know, ardent savers, you know, and just be committed to a cause, a specific cause. I look at what the iSave account presents, the opportunity that iSave present. This is now something for diasporans to kind of put something aside. Say, call it rainy day. The old adage. Put it within that line. Bring all of the Anansi stories together and then have some sort of, what you call it, moral outcomes from that. Simple. They're all there. The lessons, the life lessons are there for us. My mother said, and I adopted her mantra. A made up mind is a made up mind. Once you make up your mind to do something, you will do it, right? And that is also guided by this. Water flows to find its own course. So you are a baker by calling, but you're in the bank. Now is the time for you to do all the pastry in the bank so that your colleagues or customers coming in the bank have access to your talent, your skill. Put up some posters, ask permission from, follow protocol so that you can build a business out of it. And this is where I can bring in Rory from VMBS, the Business Development Officer, right? This is where I bring him in to just lend a little bit of strength on this conversation as it relates to business development. How do you shelve a very nasty, because we're talking reality, a very nasty attitude that prevents you from unlocking your potential? Sometimes the business that you are so focused on will never work for you. One, because of who you have around you. It's not the best business for the environment or for the climate. And after Rory's contribution to the conversation, we go back to France because we have to make sure that we balance. As a matter of fact, we have persons from Belgium inside here. So Rory, as it relates to what I just mentioned, persons have that grand idea of starting a business, and it may not be the right thing for them. How are you positioned in that group?
What I normally suggest to persons is that start with the basics. Look at where you stand financially. So you're starting with the simplest thing as a budget first for yourself. Secondly, you're going to look at certainly this business. Have you done the necessary business plan? Because a lot of persons will certainly want to start a business and haven't even done the basics, like doing a business plan. You definitely need to know your strengths, your weakness, your opportunities, you understand, with respect to this business that you're looking to certainly venture in. Or if it's something that, can I do it while having a 9 to 5? Is it something that I want to go in full time? Is the market where I'm at there? I remember Edward speaking to about, migrating to France. And I think a lot of us Jamaicans, we tend to go overseas. And prior to going to overseas, we have not, set our home, per se, in order. We have left so many things unsettled. We go overseas, we have expanded our knowledge, we have come up or increased our ideas, got into the, the vision of, yes, I can start this business. I'm going to start this business. But have you done the basics? Have you looked at what is it you're going to use, first of all, to start this business? Is it just your blood, sweat, and tears? And if you do now need financing, how is it that if I don't have the financing, how is it I'm going to get this financing? So you have to start with that basics, I would say. Once you have covered that ground, then you have put yourself on solid foundation now to move forward in realizing this business.
Well, Rory.
Go ahead, Corey.
The pitfall of the diaspora divide is that persons earning in foreign currency. And they from experience know that they're trapped in this. Whoa, I can make probably £1,000 per month, and that equates to X amount in Jamaica. Whoa, and tend to forget that they have bills in the UK to pay. So that £1,000 at the end of the month probably whittle it way down to £150, right? And then they're now trapped in this. Well, I had a 5-year plan. Whoa, I have to now move it to 20 years. And then I will look at 10 years down the road, I start putting some money together because this £150 per month not going to work because I'm thinking of other things. You're right. So, Rory, how is it that we can channel, with this new pivoting right now, to let person understand that this 150 pounds, there's still opportunity for them, but just with a little bit of discipline. How
I would say by making very educated and wise business decisions. Certainly, you want to ensure that you're maximizing as much as you can. As your example say, that funds that I have, it may mean that those funds you need to put in some sort of instrument or some sort of asset to get the maximum return. So you're looking at now for a lot of Jamaicans. I'll give you a perfect example. Once you were gainfully working in Jamaica, you'd have been contributing to a national savings scheme, the NHD. How many of us before leaving Jamaica have had the discussion with the NHD to see how can I still contribute to the scheme while being outside of the country, if it is possible? This is a scheme that can help you towards asset ownership, such as a home, right?
Yeah.
Do you look at companies like Victoria Mutual? For here in the UK, it's definitely more easier for our persons here in the UK because we have contact points through the representative offices. But for the persons outside of UK, what sort of options are available to me? Is there any remittance option? Is there any banking option? Because once you're there for a certain period, you'll certainly have to set up a formal banking account to do your finances. And in doing that, setting up this account, does this financial institution now offer me the opportunity to access, funding to either grow that money or grow my business?
Right.
Definitely, you're going to put a time bound on that. So you have to have your time plan, whether it be a 3-year, 5-year plan. That's a good time for a new business. And then you have you expand that once the business has no progress and you're at least breaking even. Better yet, if you're profitable, you're now going to look on the longer term plans, your 10, 15, 20-year plan. So I would say always go back to the basics. Know what your threats, weaknesses, opportunities are. Know your current standing financially. And I think once you have a sound idea of that, that will propel you or put you on the platform to make the wise and right steps moving forward, especially how COVID has, I think, impacted most of us. I'm not aware of anyone that it hasn't impacted in some form or shape. It will also allow you how to recover from any such shocks. Why I say it would allow you to recover from any such shocks, with any form of financial growth, independence, you must have some savings set aside.
Right.
You have to save. No matter how small it may seem, think about saving a small sum consistently over a long period. A lot of us would be able to, as you had indicated, recover much quickly, simply because we would have had the savings now to probably, return to, just to soften the impact of this epidemic, because we still don't know yet when it's going to end.
Yeah.
So we have to have those contingencies in place. And one of the best contingencies is to have that disciplined saving.
You're so right, Rory. And you mentioned NHD, National Housing Trust, and some opportunities that presents itself there, and also through joint financing with Victoria Mutual, individuals, can actually move a little bit quicker along the home ownership pathway. And another thing is that if you pool together with several individuals, maybe family, friends, then you can think of a real estate portfolio, right, that can provide some sort of residual income for yourself. Go ahead, Rory.
Well, just to come off the business development side a little bit. A lot of persons, I've heard Primrose state it a lot about the generational wealth, the parents having properties and so forth. Yourself can probably speak more on it, and I suspect Mr. Baker can give some insight based on, expertise. How many of us have had that discussion with our parents that, okay, mom, dad, you say you have this piece of land. Is the land even titled?
Yeah.
Is it titled? Because you can't do anything in Jamaica with an untitled land, pretty
Yeah.
much. Is that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So
Yeah,
that's why I say always
well,
go back to the basics.
Under informal permission, you probably can plant some crops, but as putting up structure in there, legal ramifications of that. And no developer will support you if you don't have a title for that land. You don't have that kind of formality. Right, so you're so right, Rory. And this is a point where we bring Mr. Jason Baker in from Moorland Development, because he's got a 5-point approach to the whole conversation that we're having right now, because resilience, recovery, and reality. And he will be talking about the reality in reality. Some of us thinking that we still can have that 10-bedroom, but hey, look, Mr. Baker.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Or good night to some people. Good afternoon. Here in Jamaica, it's nice and sunny still. I'm here in the cool climes of Manchester. No, we're doing a little bit better than you guys in the cold. Now, I hear you raise some points here that, like, for example, the NHT. And yes, people overseas can still contribute to the NHT benefit, voluntary contributions, and still access 6.5 million Jamaican dollars at a very low interest rate. You combine that with the mortgage you can get from VM, and you will be set up well ahead of purchasing land or doing a building. But as I said before, the first thing you need to start out with when we're looking at, in terms of contacting like us to build something for a person, the title for those lands. So it's either you own the land or you're in the process of acquiring the land, whether you're acquiring the land from us or you're buying it from someone else, because we build on people's land that they own. The first thing we need is your title. So we can't do anything without the title of the land. And there are several ways to get the title. Family land is one thing. There are several programs set up in Jamaica now that is running to get titles for all parcels of land that are here. And so you can go down to the National Land Agency and they'll assist you in getting a title for a land that wasn't previously titled. So the first step, getting your titles for your property and establishing a budget as to what you want to do. Because people come to Jamaica all the time, come to us, and they have a grand plan. And there's nothing wrong with having a dream, but the dream is for 8,000 square foot house. And your budget cannot build that. And you would end up with an incomplete building. You travel around the island, you see several of those incomplete buildings because people weren't properly informed as to how to go about building and purchasing property in Jamaica. So we have a list that we would give to any person that comes to us, and you just tick off your list as you go through. As one we said, the first thing you do is present us with the title of the property or a copy of it. The next stage would be to get that piece of property surveyed by a commissioned land surveyor to establish exactly where the land starts and where it stops. Because unfortunately, again, we have people who would come start building on a piece of property and have encroached on their neighbor's property, or not necessarily encroach in terms of going across the border, but there are restrictions as to how closely you can build to the border, and they have breached those, which is going to get you into lots of problems. You can't get a mortgage for that house because it has a breach on the title. You would then have to correct it or buy the neighbor's lot beside that. So the first step, get yourself a land surveyor to survey that property. So you can identify exactly what part of the land is yours. Once we do that, if the land is sloped, if there are any significant slopes, you get a topography report to state exactly how sloped is the land. Because again, person come to us, they've picked off this nice design for a house online, they've seen it and downloaded it and brought it, but the land does not suit that house. So it's going to cost you quite a bit of funding to prepare the land to suit the house. And it's always best to design the house to suit the land rather than vice versa. It's cheaper that way. Once you got that topography report, you would then take that to your architect, and the architect would then design for you a house. And again, you must inform them of your budget. You don't want them to design for you a 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 square foot house when your budget does not support that. The majority of people come, they want, oh, they have a nice 4-bedroom house. They want a 3-car garage. Yes, we can do all that for you. But again, that has to be within your budget. So that advice, and again, the VM will give you that advice when you go to them requiring a loan for 100 million, when you know your salary does not support that. Having drawn the plan, we take the plan now to a commissioned quantity surveyor, and that person breaks down in detail the cost of putting that design on the land. A lot of people skip this part, but this is a very important part, because this part, the QS will give you what we call a bill of quantities, and that breaks down, as I said, in detail the cost of putting your particular unit on that particular lot of land. In that, you can be in the UK or anywhere else in the world and have your construction taking place, because it would state, for example, the cost of doing the foundation. And if in the BQ, in the bill of quantities, it says the foundation should cost you, for argument's sake, $1 million, then the bill you get after the foundation is complete should not be 2. It should be $1 million for the foundation complete. And the quantity surveyor would visit the site and sign off on these things. So they go there, sign off, yes, the foundation is in and the concrete was to the right specification, the right amount of steel has been in there, yes, you can go ahead and pay this bill. And that follows through all the way until your unit is complete. A lot of people also have the drawings and are timid about how to get the drawing done. They think it will take forever to get the drawing passed at the municipal corporations, or older people, they call them the parish council. And that generally, the parish council generally meets once per month to approve building plans. So at maximum, it should take you a month to get your plan approved. Once you can start doing land preparation before the plan is approved, but you can't actually start building without the express permission from the said municipal corporation or the parish council. So a month and you'll have your plans approved, provided they meet the correct specifications. And you have the correct people drawing it. If it's a house, as I said, on a slope, you'd need an engineer to stamp off on those to say that the property is structurally sound. And again, we provide such services, but there are lots of people in the island who do as well. And you can still get quality work done here. A lot of people, in this COVID time, we've actually seen an increase in the number of people acquiring properties from us. And in just discussing with them, why are they buying now? We get the sense that a lot of people overseas are constantly on the go. Home to work, pick up the kids, drop off the kids. So they do not get a chance to sit down and look at their options. And unfortunately, with COVID, a lot of people are home, so they get a better chance to investigate properties. Where would they like to live in Jamaica? They would love to come back to Jamaica during this period, but unfortunately, they do not have a place here of their own. So we've seen an increase. We've sold out one of our properties during this period, our property in La Couve, St. Elizabeth, called the Palmbrook Estate. So lots of people are acquiring properties here, and that is always a good thing, because the property value in Jamaica always goes up. Regardless of what else is going on in the rest of the world, property value here is going up. I know overseas, a lot of people have this, they think about the Chinese building out the island in terms of roadways. But these roads that are being built, these new highways that are being built, are allowing people to move out of the city centers. So move away from Kingston, because the toll road is actually coming to Mandeville soon. That means to get to Kingston from Mandeville is now an hour, possibly. There are new roads being built in Montego Bay to take us closer to one of our developments we have in Westmoreland, the White House Beach Club. So flying in, getting a cab or a rent a car and getting to anywhere in the island is now much shorter. And the wider world still looking at brand Jamaica as a destination. We know we've been having a spike in the COVID, and hopefully we can get that under control quickly. But in our first go around, we had done quite a good job at it, I thought, in controlling the spread of this disease. So we've looked at the contract terms in terms of you contact us to build a home, the quantity surveyor, getting your bill of quantities, completions. Our next major issue people have overseas is getting their homes complete. But with our track record and with the funding from VM, you can go about that in two ways. One, you can get a construction loan, in which case the bank will pay us in what they call tranches. They'll pay us as we progress. Or they can give you a straight up mortgage, in which case it's after we deliver the home that the bank will pay us. So therefore your time frames, your house will be completed on time and on budget, because the time frame to build a house here with us is generally between 6 to 8 months. We would have completed the structure.
Interesting point. I mean, so within or under a year, individuals from the diaspora can be in their home. Depending on it's not depending on the conversation, but whichever one, if it's in tranches or straight mortgage, the time is still between 6 to 8 months, right? Depending on the weather, weather permit, right? Yeah, weather conditions. No, Mr. Baker, the thing is this: if a home costs 20 million, and they have engaged Moorland Development to deliver within that budget, 20 million. And there's an arrangement, the mortgage is being pursued through VM. They've got that mortgage, whether it be through the mortgage route or the tranches route to you. Will there be anything, do you foresee the client paying more than 20 million, right? For the completion, any variable change that will cause any increase?
Well, that is unlikely. Without any changes to the drawing, it is unlikely.
Okay.
And the reason being it's unlikely is that the spike in prices or the devaluation of the Jamaican dollar doesn't necessarily affect the cost of steel and cement. It's not a linear thing. So because of the time frame, the timeline in which you'll be building the unit, it's unlikely that you would see escalation costs.
Okay. Okay.
And again, because the bill of quantities will take into consideration some amount of that. So they'd look at the trends and factor that into the cost. So once we have the bill of quantities and the bill of quantities says, okay, to build this unit, it's $20 million. So you take that to us and we could say to you, okay, we will build it for you for 19 million. Reason being, we are looking at, because we buy our supplies in bulk, we will be making savings on steel or cement or on labor costs. Our next contract, and the reason you need this, might tell you they'll build it for you for the 20, or one might say, okay, I'll build it for you for 21. The cost that you have there plus my fees. But why you need the bill of quantities is for people who tell you that they'll build it for you for 15.
Right.
Because someone like that just trying to get the contract.
Okay.
You'll reach a portion and then it's not complete. But when you're getting a mortgage to build your house, and these problems are normally solved when a person is getting a mortgage, because the bank and NHT would do their due diligence to ensure that the quantity surveyor's analysis is there and all of that. this tends to happen to people who are building out of pocket, out of savings.
Right.
And they think they're saving when they're actually not, because they have no real clue as to what it should cost to do anything. They just think they're saving money when they're probably not.
All right. So in our next session, we'll be looking at bill of quantities, engaging the quantity surveyor, and what a bill of quantity will look like, and how best it will guide your decision in building that property. Now, NHT has been encouraging the Build Your Own Community initiative, where this sits very nicely with joint financing, right? And I will ask Shelley to step in at some point. You know, for that, it will mean that a developer will need to be engaged to deliver these units. If persons are going to pool with friends, family, colleagues, whoever, to identify a piece of land, acquire this land, and then build up their own community. They're saying 18 persons and probably going upwards. What sort of support or framework would you be best positioned to encourage this sort of engagement or interest?
Well, we partner with a lot of people in terms of a person or persons. So let me just give you a quick background of Moorland Development Company Limited, which I work for. We are owned by 200 shareholders, people who used to work at the bauxite plant, who pooled their funds together to form the company to develop our first development, Moorland's Estate in Mandeville, Manchester. So we are accustomed, and we love to see where people pool together funding, because I think that is somewhere where our community is a little bit more lacking, in which we try to do everything ourselves. And some things, if we had just pooled with our neighbor or brother or sister or family member, we could have accomplished so much more. So combining our pooling together to form a community, in which case you know exactly who your neighbors are. We have some nice communities, but when you come to Moorland and you're buying one of the units, you don't necessarily know who your neighbors are. Mm-hmm. So if 5, 6, 18 people pool together, they know who their neighbors are, they acquire a piece of land, and they said NHT would help to fund it if they're contributing to NHT. And again, 2 people combined would get up, what, 13 million Jamaican dollars is a nice amount to start on your way. We would be happy to help with that. We would provide the units, and we offer 4 services when it comes to that. The first service is to do what we call the shell of the unit, which is to put up all the walls, internal and external walls, putting on the roof, finishing the walls in terms of rough cast and rendering, doing all the floor slabs, the rough electrical and plumbing, and all of the substructure, the septic tank, the water tank, the tile field. Then no, let's say a person wanted to run over to France or wanted to bring down their finishes from England. They could do that. So windows, doors, tiles, or they could get them locally. We offer a finishes contract, which is to install for your windows, your doors, your tiles, your kitchen and bathroom furnishings, or painting the house. The third option, we call it exterior option, which will build you your perimeter fencing, if you so desire, and do your landscaping. Or the fourth option, we call it turnkey. You basically just move in your furniture, because we'd have combined the first 3 into 1 contract.
Right. So, you know, in terms of the shell, Mr. Baker, it's also wise for persons to do what? No, the due diligence, quantity, the bill of quantity. Is that something that you encourage them to be involved in that process?
You would have to do your bill of quantities for whichever one of the services you want us to do. So okay. The instant you decide you're going to be building a house, you know you're going to need someone to draw the house. You're going to need someone to do the pricing for the house to be built. And as I said, it's always best to start from your budget. If you know what VM is lending. So we would not get into a contract with you unless you come with a pre-approval letter. So the pre-approval letter would state that, okay, VM is willing to lend you $30 million. So if you bring me a drawing that is going to cost you $40 million, we're going to ask where you're going to get the additional 10 from.
Right.
And then the QS would come in and break down the spending details, which VM would need in order to actually process your loan. So your first step is normally to go into the bank to find out how much am I qualified to borrow. Not necessarily to go in there to borrow, but just to find out, do your due diligence. How much am I qualified to borrow, and how much do I have in savings that I am willing to put into the house? So it's not a matter of how much money you have in total, how much you're willing to spend on building your house.
Right.
And you don't want to exhaust the whole of your savings to build.
Right. Absolutely. Good. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Because there will be questions relating to the whole building your own community. So we will sprint over to including Shelley in this conversation now. Shelley and Scott from Victoria Mutual. She is a mortgage and loans officer there. And ask her this question, or just to respond in a conversation, conversational tone as it relates to if persons pool their finances together. I know it may, we're in difficult times. Does this put them in a better stead for them to be, qualified for a loan? I hope we still have Shelley with us.
I am still here. Possibly, but it's not guaranteed, because even with the pool finance, we look at individual persons, and if whoever you're joining with, each person still have to qualify individually.
Okay.
So we still check the credit ratings for individual persons.
Right.
There are exceptional circumstances where one person may not necessarily meet all the requirements, but the other person is strong. They can carry the loan should something happen. So in that case, we'll look at it. So not necessarily if it's pool finance, it will put you in a better position, but it puts you in it gives you a slight edge.
All right. So we won't go down the route of saying that, being approved is like, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. All right. We won't fashion it in that terms, but we would want individuals to work on their circumstances, right, to make sure that they are better positioned for the loan to be approved or even considered.
Correct.
All right, absolutely. So diasporians, you hear this. We want to bring Primrose back in it because we have to go down the line of being very strong. We're coming down on the webinar, and we have the French individuals. There are quite a few questions coming from France, and we want to knock home that you may be new in a foreign land, but there still lies within opportunities. You have heard from Mr. Jason Baker from Moorland Development. He's a sales and marketing director there. He can walk you through the entire process. You have heard from Ms. Shelley and Scott, who have been very direct as it relates to the mortgage process in this climate. And you have heard from Mr. Rory O'Harris, Business Development Officer at BMBS. Strong advice, and all of this, their response have been coming from the discussion itself. Nothing out of the way. It has been very straightforward. They have quoted Edward, Primrose, and of course, the entire push is for you to be resilient, you recover strong, and you accept your reality. What that reality is, we hope that through this conversation, this discussion, we can plan so we can put in place the necessary support mechanisms, right? It is important for you to own home, and I pluralize it. you're overseas, fine. If your ambition is to acquire property within the territory that you reside, that's your call. But if you want to come home and you want to acquire that property or pull together and build your community, that is a great consideration. Primrose, you're on mute.
I'm answering out loud, you know, and I'm on mute. Before I do that, I have to answer the question that's just been asked by, is it Roderick Tennant?
Roderick Tennant, yes.
I would like to call Shelly-Ann's expertise to possibly answer that for him. But I can tell you that I have an iSave account because I want all the benefits that this account give. And as an ambassador for Victoria Mutual who doesn't really know the ins and outs of things, because like I tell you, I'm the worst customer. When I call, they just think, not this woman again. And for an ambassador, I'm terrible at my own accounts. But I look at the benefits of it. When I'm ready with a little piece of land on a Manique and a little 3-bedroom chateau, as we say in Jamaica, I know that I have benefits such as the services outside of the financial aspect of buying a home. So I hope you're listening, Mr. Tennant. You know, the surveyor, Shelly-Ann can probably help me out here with all the benefits you get from that. You get their services available in-house from Victoria Mutual. They work with a lot of other individuals that are trusted, because the worst thing you want to do is step into Jamaica not really knowing, if you're not one of those people who are connected all day long to Jamaica, you might not know which is the best surveyor, which is the best lawyer, which is the best, what else do you need when you're buying a house? I can't remember now. I bought mine so long ago, I can't remember. But all the services in terms of buying a house, plus the interest rate is nice. It's nice. And those are the things I look at. And, you know, I used to have my savings account here and I clean out everything and gone to Jamaica because I believe in Jamaica. So you're talking, Corey, you're asking me to talk about buying houses. Now, I had 2 young men. I call them my twinning and winning duo. 2 young men who are busy like bees buying property in Jamaica, and they're of Jamaican heritage. They live here. They're both on the call, but none of them can actually talk. One busy cutting here so he can pay more money into Victoria Mutual to buy more property, and one has gone out on a job. Literally, one's a gas engineer, and together they run a couple of businesses. And I have been approached recently by 4 different individuals here in Bristol wanting to talk to me about saving and what is the process of buying a house. Is it difficult? And you know, as a devout Jamaican, I don't love nowhere else in the world like how I love Jamaica, and people actually call me Miss Jamaica. It is a name I quite happily bear. I often just, for no reason at all, I'm lucky enough to have a radio show. I just turn up and just make it into a Jamaica Day thing, and nobody, you know, they all just go, it's Primrose, leave her alone. She's always talking about Jamaica. Because I'm very proud to be Jamaican. I'm very proud of Jamaica, and I'm proud of everything Jamaican, whether it's good, whether what some people call it is bad, or whether it's indifferent. I love Jamaica every day, every hour of the day, you know, regardless of what's happening there.
How difficult would it be to get a group of Bristolians to actually acquire property and build out their own community? How difficult would that be?
At the moment, 3 of the 4 people that I'm talking to all have dreams to have homes in geographically unrelated areas. You know, one person have the same dream I have, Portland, somewhere close to the beach with 2 goats. And then I know my twinning and winning brothers, they could probably set up a little conglomerate. I hope they're listening. I know they told me they're working. So O'Neill, if you're listening and you can type a little question, I would appreciate, a little response, I'd appreciate that. It might be that we have to physically go and hunt down these people and say to them, listen, you know this person, you know that person, you're all from the same community, why don't you do something together? We could do that, but at the same time, what I'm encouraging people to do is to think about Jamaica as a place of investment, because some of us don't sell Jamaica very well. You know, we call about everything, how long it takes to go in one bank, what one account, how this, how that, and there's a lot of moaning that happens. And you know, I get attacked on Facebook all the time. There's a lady who has a go at me all the time, and I post certain things. She said to me, every day you post about Jamaica, and I tell her straight up, if you can post one bad story about Jamaica, I can post you 100 good stories about Jamaica on the same day.
All right, hold on, Primrose. Hold that point. Hold that point. And don't forget her. Don't forget her. This is the point where I'm going to bring Mr. Baker back in as to the reason why there's so much interest in even the White House property, the White House Beach Club property, because you mentioned investment. Mr. Baker.
Yes, we have a property in White House, Westmoreland called the White House Beach Club. We're building some 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathroom units. The property has its own private beach. And as always, we build secure communities. So we'd have security guards at the gate, a perimeter fence around the property, security patrols, and CCTV cameras. But with this particular development, we're looking at it as people can, the Airbnb, the last couple of years in Jamaica has been taking off. There have been billions of dollars being made off Airbnb. So these units are units people can buy and rent. So we're currently in discussions with hoteliers to take over the property. So a person can buy a unit and have a hotelier market it worldwide, have clients come in, they pick them up at the airport, utilize the facility, they go back, you get your money deposited in your account. And when you want to use your property, you simply block out those dates, fly down to Jamaica, enjoy your house on the beach. We're right beside the Sandals in White House, Westmoreland. Well, so, as I said, people can pool their funds together, buy one of these units as an investment, or you can buy it as an individual. If you are of the retiring age or you want to relax on the beach, you can buy your house and live there all year round, or you can earn income from it.
Right. So I suppose Rory, this could go into kind of a portfolio kind of approach. You know, I'm not so savvy with that kind of the jargons, you know, around the development. But as Jason mentioned, that a couple of persons can come together and purchase this. This could be a starter portfolio, that sort of thing, going into to wealth management, that sort of thing. So it's just a myriad of opportunities, right? A myriad of opportunities that.
Corey, can I ask Mr. Baker a question? Mr. Baker, how do you sell that concept to the Jamaican who's been here a while, who want to go home and build in their district, and they won't think outside the box of building in their district? What are some of the tips you can give me? Because I talk to people all the time to encourage them. How can you help me? What kind of paperwork can you send me to help?
When it comes to building in your own district, personally, people come from a district, I wouldn't encourage them to go back to the district.
Why is that?
Reasons. One, most people who come from a district would have moved on, left the district in terms of economics. And when you go back to that district and you go to the district and you build a mansion compared to what else is in the district, for the harassment. I have lots of people who come to our gated communities simply because it helps prevent the family and friends from just popping up at your door sometimes. Because unfortunately here you have people who think you go foreign, like Edward, I'm thinking they're over there make a bag of money when he's just trying to make ends meet. So until more of our Jamaicans travel and see what it is when you're overseas and you can't get a breadfruit or you can't get a Mackie, you have to get all of this, they have to work for it. You don't have any neighbors who can just give you this, or the trees in the common, you can just go pick it. Then we always have these challenges.
Let me see how many persons agree with you, Mr. Baker. All right, just put a little comment in the group. How many persons agree with Mr. Baker? Because I see it lighting up. Continue, Mr. Baker, until the responses come in.
Right. So getting people not to build back in their communities is a relatively simple task. most people, if they would come, when you come and you see what we're doing, it's a first world community and with the relaxed atmosphere that you have in Jamaica. Our communities will have their own clubhouse, swimming pool, gym, all of that are there, and they don't cost a fortune to get into. Well, the one in White House does cost a fortune because it's what it is. But our properties in Manchester or in Lacovia, the lots in Lacovia would have sold for about £20,000 for a quarter acre lot there or bigger, and you can build a nice house in a nice gated community with all kind of first world amenities.
Right, I totally agree with that. Edward, from the French side of things, how many persons, because of that experience coming on your side and the interest that person shown, pre-COVID was quite high. Is it the same interest now that COVID has hit, that persons still want to invest in Jamaica, still want to have their accounts and all of those kind of things? Is it still high in France? And I know with the new cohort of assistants coming in, what do you anticipate? Quickly.
Listen, we have a project in France to pass out England diaspora soon. Huh?
Good luck.
We have a lot of, each year we get a lot of assistance, and as a matter of fact, we have a lot of Jamaicans who are here. The diaspora here is growing, and a lot of people want like banking services. They want a Jamaican bank account, but they don't want to necessarily save in Jamaican dollars. So they're always asking, you know, if somebody from Victoria can come set up shop, just even once a month, and do some banking services here, because we're just across the pond, and you know, possibility to save and buy property and that sort of thing. But I have to say that not only are the Jamaicans here interested in what's going on, because since I've created JamFet, it's been crazy the response that I'm getting. I mean, if you look at Facebook, even we have a Jamaican brunch next week, and the interest on Facebook has gone over 1,000 people. So, I mean, they might not necessarily come to the brunch, but there's a great interest in Jamaica and what JamFet is doing in our activities. And I'm sure that a lot of those non-Jamaicans will probably be thinking, oh, if I can get a loan or do business with, you know, Victoria Mutual or Moorland Development, then they'll be interested. So it's really developing here, and we're really looking forward to, you know, to moving from strength to strength. We want a lot of, not just Victoria Mutual, but we want a lot of Jamaican companies to come over. There are a lot of companies that are Jamaican run in the UK, and you know, we could do events, partner to do certain events, and you know, to integrate the communities a lot more. There, I mean, as Corey said, there's someone on the line from Belgium, and we're in discussion with somebody from Amsterdam as well. So it's like almost like creating a European alliance of the Jamaican diaspora, to, you know, make sure that we have access to information. Because to be honest with you, I didn't know that I could have saved and, you know, buy property or get loans, even though I'm overseas. You know, I left Jamaica like 18 years ago. I just thought that, you know, I didn't qualify for anything. Even
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, NHT didn't even cross my mind, you know. So forums like these that allow us to, you know, access information and, you know, to be jealous about the different services that are offered to the more mature diaspora. You know, it's tickling us a lot.
Right, good. The conversation is centered around resilience, recovery, and of course reality. And we're having a very robust conversation with our serious partners here today, Moorland Development, of course, Victoria Mutual. We have award-winning BBC presenter, Bristolian, but Jamaica first and foremost, Miss Primrose Granville, and of course, educator and founder of JamFet, Mr. Edward voucher, and if you're in France, you have to say boucher, right? Mortgage and loan, senior mortgage and loan officer, Miss Shelley and Scott, and of course, Rory, I just missed your title. I've been saying it all webinar, right? Right, Business Development Officer, Mr. Rory O'Harris. All right, we're in this discussion, and we want to take a few from the floor before we kind of wrap things, and we say our sentiments as you know how we plan together as a diaspora and how we support as entities. Sanchia, Alicia, you mentioned that your dad have a pool, his property, and it's quite expensive to manage. No, as a mayor in London, in England, a former mayor, what were the concerns? What were the things that attracted individuals to Jamaica? Why brand Jamaica was so popular? And from your knowledge, experience, did you encounter individuals who really wanted to go back to Jamaica and probably have found it difficult to connect the dots? Sanjay, I know I put you on spot. You know, you can refuse if you like, but I would really want you to respond, considering that
Yes, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I think it's different between the different generations. So if I think about my father, he's always wanted to go back to Jamaica, and he's there now in St. James. But I think of my generation, you know, he always used to talk to us about going back to Jamaica. But I think of our generation, it's a bit different for us. We see, you know, we see Jamaica as our home, but not necessarily at this stage in our lives of going there to live right now. Not to say that it wouldn't be in the future, but not right now. And I like the idea, I can't remember the gentleman's name, apologies, but I like the idea of what he was saying of, you know, this Airbnb sort of idea and getting property not in your district. I think, you know, that is a brilliant idea, because you can have jealousy, and you can have all sorts of problems that then surround you with that. So I like the idea of, you know, getting a property in Jamaica, in a gated community, something that I can use as an Airbnb, and then when I'm out there, I can use it for myself. And I think that's an idea that would appeal to young people who maybe at this stage of their lives maybe want to pursue educational opportunities, maybe in a different country to gain a different cultural experience. There's other people that will be developing their corporate and professional career that may not feel, you know, it's quite the right time. People may have children going through schooling, and it may not be quite the right time to retire to Jamaica at this stage. But that idea that is put forward is a very viable one. And I think part of our role, I mean, there's many ambassadors here on the call this evening, part of our role is to spread those ideas and spread those options and opportunities to our networks and to our communities, so that they can avail themselves of these options, because it's probably not an option that I thought about until I've heard it now. And so many others will be in the same position. So I know certainly back in East London, I will be promoting BMBS and the opportunities that can be provided in different ways. Because I think traditionally it's been seen as, well, you need to build your own property, as you say, on your father's land. And not everybody is attracted to that. I'm certainly not attracted to that, but actually there are, you know, other ways of sort of having your property into Jamaica, which would be more sort of viable options. So yes, I like the sound of what I'm hearing, and definitely will be spreading the word about these options. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much, Sandra, and I must commend Sandra, because she was a recipient of the Grace Kennedy Birthright Program scholarship and went to Jamaica and of course was immersed in the culture. And now, you know, she is a great advocate for Jamaica in over there in East London, you know, which is what fast developing. And I can say a lot for individuals. I want to hear from some of the assistants who will be coming up, Edward, because we will be closing off in another 10 minutes. And I really want to hear from them. But before we go there, Lord Alan Okello, he is of very strong African heritage, but he is married into Jamaica. No, right? He has got a Jamaican wife, but it's a heritage marriage, I would say. So, Lord Alan, if you can unmute, I want you to put in the conversation your perspective of, you know, of buying property in Jamaica. What is it saying to your generation, persons of African descent as well, who love Jamaica, and just your entire experience as a businessman in that space?
It's a very interesting perspective, because you find that here, well, I grew up in London mostly. I was born in Uganda, came over when I was 6 years old. And, you know, that was my first introduction to Jamaicans and people of the Caribbean and people from all over the world, because in Uganda, obviously, there are only Ugandans and then a sprinkling of Brits and a sprinkling of Asian folk. So this was a huge cultural eye-opening. And I made my decision a long time ago, almost a decade ago, that I was actually going to marry a Caribbean woman, specifically Jamaican, because I love the culture, I love the music, I love the food. It was just a beautiful, incredible, amazing aura around the island. Because in the grand sphere of things, as small an island as Jamaica is, and as few of the population as Jamaica is, you cannot go anywhere in the world and nobody recognizes Jamaica as a culture, as a music, as an epicenter.
You've gone low, Alan.
So, the pinnacle of Black
Lord Alan, you've gone low.
It's just an absolutely beautiful thing. So for me personally, I'm really excited at the prospect of owning property in Jamaica. And I've been talking to Corey about this for a good long while, and there is a plan in place for my wife and I to start looking at property. My wife's grandparents already have property in Jamaica that they're looking at and sorting out at the moment. And we as a family would love to have somewhere that we can just go as a whole complete family and just spend quality time in the sun with quality food, with beautiful culture. Because what we do as a family is every 2 years we'll do a Christmas house. We call it Christmas house because everyone in the family comes together. We rent out the biggest property we can of 40 or 50 rooms, and all the aunties, all the cousins, all the grandparents, everybody just comes together and spends Christmas in one house. Why don't we do that in our own property in Jamaica? So that's my take, and I'm kind of just, you know, flowing with as many ideas as have been whirling around my head, and not only that, it's the economy of Jamaica is something that I would personally love to contribute to. I'm very, very active in building financial knowledge and awareness and brightening the scope of a lot of specifically urban Black young people, especially urban young Black men who are in London, who only see their council estate, who only see grime and drill artists, who only see footballers as the way forwards and up. And there is so much scope and so much opportunity for investment at a much lower buying point in our mother countries, whether that's Africa or in the Caribbean or wherever. I mean, the last meeting I went to at Brixton Town Hall last year, where we were talking about the growth rate of the Jamaican Stock Exchange and how little a buy-in you could put in. I think the lowest buy-in was like £50 or something like that, but the growth rate was astronomical. So in my £50 in 5 years' time is, you know, a good few £100s. And if I then start compounding that and say, as a family, how about we all put in £50, and then there's 10 or 15 of us putting in £50 per month, what does that look like later on? What can we do with that later on? And that's how we access property. That's how we access all the different financial instruments that we would need and be able to utilize to really empower the next generation. Everything we do as Black people is primarily to get our kids up on the right footing going forward, so they don't have to go through what we went through and they start on another level. So I don't want to keep talking, because I can keep talking about this for another 3 hours, and I'm pretty sure you guys have got things to do other than listen to me talk.
Thank you very much, Lord Alan. All right, and there you have it. An individual who is falling in love with Jamaica and you know, learning the business side of it. And there will be a lot of conversations around property acquisition, but just, you know, the whole concept of financial literacy, and that is important. And if there's one thing I want all of us to walk away from this conversation with today, is the importance of financial literacy. All right, because what that does, it shapes your path. Sometimes you can consolidate on that path, but with being very financially prudent, and you have all the instruments, right, to make informed decisions with your own reality. We've got the coordinator for the assistance program for those who are traveling into France, Miss Rona Passard, who is also on. I would like to invite her, you know, to extend some amount of sentiment. What sort of support structure that you have put in place? And know that you've heard from a very balanced approach, opportunities that may be presented to these assistants going there, and the encouragement for them to make sure that they are financially aware, that when they do so, they sow into some sort of long-term financial framework or support. Ms. Rona Passard, I invite you.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm not quite sure I understood the question. You're asking what kind of support we have put in place for?
Actually, when I mentioned support in terms of advice coming in, did you say, okay, go enjoy, the world is your oyster, be the best you can be, that sort of thing? You know, it's just how you prep them to be resilient in that territory.
Okay, well, what we usually do for our assistants who are going off, or good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, depending on where you are. What we usually do for our assistants who are going off to France, usually for 7 months, is to have a series of workshops before they go, usually about 3 of them. The first one, sensitizing them to what kind of paperwork and so on they'll have to do in France. What are the benefits for them to get to pay lower rates for rent and so on, because there are things in place for that. We usually encourage them to take a certain amount of money with them, because they're not usually paid until, in some cases, 2 months after they get there. So they have to be self-sufficient before they get there. And over the past 3 years, we have been working in close contact with JAM in France. So usually they are introduced to the members of JAM in France before they go to France, and they are in contact with them, so that once they arrive in France, they already have that support network, so that they know that if there are any problems, they can contact them. Usually they are advised to find accommodation that is reasonable so that they can do some saving. They're also advised to take advantage of the situation, the position that they're in for travel, because at their age they are eligible for a lot of reductions. Right. And also to explore opportunities to study there, And there are quite a few of the assistants who have gone on to do master's degrees after they've been teaching assistants, and there are even some who have done their PhD. So many of them have gone on to do that. Last year, well, earlier this year, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck and nobody was expecting it, we had assistants who were stuck in France and couldn't get home because borders were closed and airlines weren't operating. And Jam in France was very supportive, and the embassy as well in Brussels, Ambassador Monti. So we organized bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks we had a meeting with them. We found out how they were doing, how much money they had. And I have to say that the Ministry of Education in France and France Education Nationale, they were very helpful, because although the students were supposed to have stopped being paid at the end of April, they extended their contracts for 2 months, so that even though they weren't teaching and they were confined at home, they had enough money to see them through. And eventually, with the help of the embassy, a charter was put in place and they were able to come back home to Jamaica.
Great. So they have good support. And
yes, they have very good support.
Very good support. Absolutely.
And they usually have a WhatsApp group before they even leave as well. So they're in touch with each other and they're in touch with other people who are in France. Great
stuff. Just a final question for you. Do you find that once they return to Jamaica, there's some amount of greater interest in expanding in probably, say real estate? Do they normally try to acquire properties? Do they do extra investment in themselves once they return to Jamaica?
I don't know much about the investment side of it. I know that I've encouraged some of them to open accounts with like JMNB and so on. But I know that what we have tried to do is to find employment. So whenever there are people who contact us at the university, like just recently, I sent out an email to about 20 students, because there's an up-and-coming call center that's doing business with French-speaking Canada, and they wanted students who speak French to be able to work with them. So quite a few people went to a Zoom meeting to get more information on that, and they've been interviewed, and they're going to start training about a week back. So there's that opportunity.
Great opportunity.
Right. And quite a lot of them have come back to the university as well. Those who haven't gone on to do master's degrees in France are enrolled in the master's program at UWI. Quite a few of them are now in the translation, master's in translation program. So that is good. They go into teaching, and a lot of them went into tourism, but that was hard hit during the COVID pandemic. So many of them are now with call center.
Great. Looking forward to engaging with you again through Mr. Boucher and other stakeholders. That sounds really good. You're onto something very good. I know you have been doing for quite a number of years now.
Yes, it's quite a good experience for the students. It opens their eyes to a lot, and they come back a lot more mature and ready to take on the world.
Great stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have to kind of lay it out there. The next session definitely will be focused around the quantity surveying and preparing that bill of quantities, so that you will understand the cost of block, cement, steel, how much is it to build your 2,000 plus square feet home, 4,000, 5,000 square feet, whatever size home it is, your ambitions. That session is dedicated to you, so you will be equipped so you can equip others. I've seen individuals who are practicing solicitors, lawyers who have joined us. We want to have that conversation on the legal aspect of things. So before we go, I'm going to be asking each individual panelist just to leave a word of encouragement or any observations that they want to kind of lay into before we close off. We'll start with, of course, Ms. Primrose Granville, and then we take Ms. Shelley Ann Scott, then Mr. Rory Harris, Mr. Edward Boucher, and of course, the man with the land plan and the building plan, Mr. Jason Baker, and then we close out. Primrose.
I would just like to encourage everybody to remember the statements I started with. JOB means you only get paid 12 times per year. And as my grandmother said, if you save during hard times, during the good times, it will be so easy to do. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Ms. Shelley.
I would just like to encourage everyone to reach out to us, whether to start that saving plan or the homeowner journey. Have the conversation. You may never know, you might be ready, but until you have that conversation, you won't have been informed. So I've left my email address in the comment box. Reach out to us and we'll guide you. Good evening.
Rory. Still Rory? We take Eddie. Yes, we're hearing you now.
All right, lovely. Yeah, just to follow up on what Shirley said, I would say anything that you're thinking of doing, first step is to not start. Just start. Make a start.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you. Edward.
Yeah, I know we're out of time, but I wanted to welcome Cookie because Cookie is actually French. Yeah, and she's actually half Jamaican, but she's French. Never been to Jamaica, and she wants to connect with Jamaica. So I don't know if Cookie could say bonjour.
Yes, man.
To us.
By all means. By all means. Go ahead, Cookie.
I don't know if she's hearing me.
Hello.
Bonjour, bonjour, Cookie.
Bonjour, bonsoir.
Yeah, je m'appelle Corey.
Thank you, Edouard. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, so I just want to encourage everyone because a lot of things are happening, and especially for my children who are coming to France, to get in touch because, as we said, we have a lot of projects that we're working on, and it will create opportunities. Might also be €100, but I mean it helps towards something, or it could be 100,000. Why not? There's no limit, right? So looking forward to working and partnering with DMBS, with Moorland, and with the Bristol Massive, and for the future projects and great things to come. Thank you for this forum.
And thank you as usual, Edwin. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Baker. Checking if we still have Mr. Baker with us. Alan, we still have Jason with us. Have a look and see if he's having problem unmuting. Yes. I think we have lost Jason, but also as a Moorland rep, as he had mentioned that we are in the business of making sure that individuals have a roof over their head and be comfortable within gated communities with first-class, world-class amenities. And I know the statement about not building where you come from. It's not building where you come from, but it is putting up that house, that home that looks so different from everybody else's that will attract some negative energy. along with positive energy as well. So we, there's a balance there. But do you feel comfortable in that zone that you always have to be in a balancing act? So we support those who are helping others to build, that sort of thing, because that's how you can empower a community, right? But what it is for your own investment, your own journey, how do you recover stronger? From the advice, from the information shared from everybody here in this forum this afternoon. As we move on to the next forum, and we'll be posting the date for that. It will be within a week. And it's all about quality progression. It's all about quality mindset. It's all about quality conversations and quality company, because we need each other in this trying time, these very uncertain times. We need each other. We need that support unit, and we pull on each other's strength. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, the guests who have participated and making this another success, because we do success. All right, so I want you to just light up put some fire if you really enjoy it, type in some fire and thing, and let us move on to the next session. You will be informed as to when's the next one, within a week. Primrose, get ready. We'll give you enough information. Put some fire in the group, put some thumbs up if you enjoy, and it was great listening to the presenters, the panelists as we wrap. Thank you all. Thank you, Lord Alan Okello, for your input, your technical support, and we'll be launching the buyingpropertygamaica.com webinar website within a week. Thank you all for joining us. You have a great day, wherever you are in the world. We continue this in a week.